Good morning, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We're at 14634 Southeast Natalia Street here in Happy Valley, located at the front of the house. I describe everything as if you're standing out in the street facing the front of the home. We're about 3 feet to the right of the front doorway. We are also smack dab directly underneath that left side edge of the window frame here to the right of the front door in the event this cleanout gets buried. And it sits right up against the front of the house. 4-inch ABS cleanout here will be our point of access. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water is a-running. We're going to zero out here at the base of the cleanout. And I was just noticing, because the house is it's a 2-story home, that bottom story drops off that back hillside. I noticed when looking at the cleanout, it was quite shallow. So what I'm about to tell you is going to be on the home inspector's report. I just kind of wanted to second it. When you go downstairs, there is quite a smell. It's very clearly a sewer smell downstairs, right around that bathroom. Anyway, whenever you have a clean out this shallow with plumbing on that bottom floor, you're going to have an ejector system, and it does indeed have one of those. From the sounds of it, I think it sounds like the pump has been replaced. I don't know when, but it would appear that something about that pump is not sealed up properly. Because it's very obviously venting sewer gas into the house. At least it appears to be. I don't believe anyone's used the bathroom since we got here, but anyway, it's something worth investigating into. So as we've gone along here, we've gone through a few different bellies in the sewer line, which we're going to revisit these on the way out when the line's fully drained. As this thing currently sits right now, I couldn't even recommend $5 in drain cleaning on it. It's so clean. One of the ejector pumps are kind of a fickle thing. They're not the most ideal thing in the world because they do require power to function. So if there's ever a power outage, make sure you are not using that bottom floor plumbing, because it will not work. The tank will only fill up so far, and then it will overload and dump out into the crawl space, which I think may have happened potentially in the past. Sounds like there's some lime or something like that on the dirt down there to probably kill some stuff off. But anyway, the one advantage you have with an ejector system is they blast water down the pipe very aggressively. They're shooting 5-10 gallons down the line in about 2 seconds flat. And the advantage, if they are used on a semi-frequent basis, they almost act like an in-house drain cleaning machine. When you get a rush of water that hard and aggressive through the pipe, what I've noticed I've been doing this 13 years now. I've cambered almost 25,000 sewer lines. I've done a lot of drain cleaning and been involved in repairs. And what I've noticed very, very frequently on these homes that have some standing water in them like this, would also have an ejector pump that's being used somewhat frequently, is that they often remain much cleaner than your average sewer line, because you're getting that big rush of water down the pipe on a semi-frequent basis, and it helps to bust any buildup off the sidewalls. That's assuming you have buildup. In general, in a plastic sewer line, especially a 4-inch diameter one, smooth pipe walls, buildup, generally speaking, does not happen unless you're feeding the sewer line stuff that can build up. What should be going down the sewer line, obviously, is stuff that disintegrates properly. That's why we don't put paper towels down the line. Wipes, flushable wipes, I include in that category. They're slightly less terrible than paper towels are. So if you're not feeding the line stuff like that, you're also not giving it much to build up. But some homes, get cooking oil and things like that down the line. So I just wanted to kind of throw on that past you. The way that the standing water is throughout this line right now, it's sporadically throughout most of the pipe. We're going to give it a look over once the line's fully drained so we don't have an exaggerated view of it. But in general, when you've got them spaced throughout the line this frequently, you're redoing the entire sewer line to correct it. Right now, based on the fact that I can't even recommend you clean the sewer line, this is not a situation where I'm going to jump straight to let's tear a 60-foot trench across the street and front yard here. It's not a perfect sewer line, but based on the cleanliness of it, the lack of buildup, it does not show any evidence of causing any kind of frequent recurring problems. But we'll revisit that here in a moment. We're going to go locate here. We're at the main connection. All right, I located the camera head successfully. Again, as you face the home from the street, the line pops out at the front of the home, a few feet to the right of the front doorway. It then crosses from right to left. It gets under the majority. It crosses most of the width of the driveway, but it turns and straightens out probably about 3 feet inside that left side edge of the driveway. So it does run down the driveway out to the road. All right. Come back through here now. It looks like the line's drained off at this point. So what I was just noticing there, and I kind of assumed this would be the case, the main lateral out here is only, I'm getting only 5 foot 5 inches deep at the main. And looking into this clean out here, the clean out is probably to the bottom of it is about 3 feet or so, 3 to 3.5 feet. So from A to B, you're only working with probably about 2 feet of fall. It's a very tight tolerance line. The main out there is so shallow it would have been absolutely impossible to grade that bottom floor sewer line out. So anyway, anytime you get this kind of setup here where you've got a house that at least a portion of it sits below grade combined with a very shallow main lateral, for instance, I mean, just so you know, the average main lateral is around 8 feet deep. There's a lot of them that they're more than that, 10, 12 feet deep, which provides a lot of room to grade the sewer line. Helps you put a steeper pitch on it, and the line's a lot less prone to settling problems. These have to be installed absolutely perfectly or they're going to settle. So it's something I fully expected. You told me all these things before I even got here. I would have guaranteed you there was going to be some bellies in the sewer line. So again, going back to what I was saying here, you know, the line is clean. There's like this right here, for instance. This is a tampon string caught in the flow line. You know, that's something that shouldn't have gone down the line to begin with. And my camera here is gonna break that thing loose so it moves on its way. So it's not a meaningful amount of debris anyway. This is not the kind of stuff I would recommend you go jetting the line over, for instance. That'll break loose and move on its way now. So anyway, there is certainly some settling throughout the sewer line here. Little tiny horizontal offset. That thing's like maybe a 1/4 inch out of whack. Very, very minor. I'm gonna notate that really quick here on the report or my notes. Anyway, the lip on that is so small. The flow line area is flush. My camera right now is upside down, but there is a just infinitesimally small little lip there on the side of the pipe. It's not something that's running a risk of causing a blockage there. And the joint is sealed up. So, and I'm going to write this one up here. You know, thus far coming back, the worst standing water I've seen so far is hovering right around 1 inch, and that's way out there by the main. That spot we just went through right there was about a 1/4 inch of standing water. So in the world of bellies, this is not terribly significant standing water we've seen here so far. And that's a clump of hair there. That will also move on its way. Anyway, in my opinion here, this is not a line where I would recommend repairs on it. A lot of you'd have to redo the entire sewer line to correct the slope and grade on this thing. Even then, you start getting down kind of a crazy alley sometimes. You know, if we were looking at 3 or 4 inches of standing water right close up to the house, I'd probably feel a little bit differently about it. But the level of cost and effort you'd have to go through to correct this thing is overkill for what you've got going on here, especially a line this clean. So I would rather see, if you're a home that is developing enough buildup to justify it, and again, you're going to have to be putting stuff down the line that's improper to really accomplish that. I would rather see folks spend a few $100 every couple years to jet the sewer line out and clean buildup out of it, which this line doesn't even need as it sits right now. I couldn't even recommend you clean it. Even to be super duper nice on the seller's side to clean it, just because there's nothing in here to even clean out. So this is not one that rises to the significance, in my opinion, to warrant that kind of repair work. With tolerances this tight, with a depth that shallow at the main, there is not a repair company on earth that would not have to take this thing all the way back to the foundation wall. And some of them will get back here and realize we need to start adjusting interior plumbing to come out at a shallower level. You start getting down a pretty wild rabbit hole that becomes overly expensive for what you have going on here. So all the pipe is intact. None of it's broken, albeit there is some settling throughout the line in places. Most of the standing water is less than 1 inch. And where I just barely start to consider repairs on bellies is once there's 1 inch of water for a minimum of 5 feet. At this point in my career, after the amount of lines I've seen, Generally speaking, I'm recommending repairs on bellies like that or worse when you're very close proximity to the home, and by and large in smaller diameter pipe and or in old rough pipe materials like cast iron and concrete, where you have a coupling effect of very rough pipe walls, kind of like your staircase here. You can see how rough that is. You know, that texture combined with standing water that slows things down is not a great combo. In smooth pipe, it mitigates a lot of the buildup problems. As long as you're not putting improper things down the line. So what I would suggest to you, if you're a smaller household and the basement's not lived in very frequently, you know, not every household is going to be, you know, avoiding grease and stuff going down the line. It's not a terribly uncommon thing. But what I would suggest to you is maybe once every week, go downstairs, run some water, get that ejector pump to turn on and activate, and let that thing blast through the pipe every so often. It'll help to keep the line significantly cleaner. Again, that's assuming stuff is going down the line that is not, you know, designed to go down a sewer line. Pretty much every household out there has stuff like that go down the sewer line. It's a good suggestion there to help keep buildup at a minimum. So anyway, as the line sits, we have adequate flow all the way to the main lateral. All the pipe is superbly clean. In fact, this line is far cleaner than the average perfectly graded sewer line I look at. About 1 in every 4 lines I look at, well, I often recommend jetting on due to thick grease buildup. So this is one of those that just simply comes down to treating the line right. Don't put cooking oil and grease down the line. Wipe it out with a paper towel after the pan cools. Dump it into a garbage can. Scrape it off after it cools. Put it in a jar. That's the most common item that will build up in standing water, and it will build up anywhere. Doesn't matter if there's water or not, but it tends to concentrate at standing water areas. Just keep the improper stuff out of the line like you're supposed to, and you will have mitigated pretty much everything that can build up in the sewer line. That's my 2 cents on this one. The line has more than adequate flow to the main. The bellies are really on the minor side. The most significant ones are far out from the house anyway, where you want them to be if you're going to have a belly. So I would just suggest running the plumbing downstairs to the extent you hear the pump turn on and eject. You know, do that every so often, maybe every week, maybe every 2 weeks, but I would run it here and there. It really does a great deal to help keep the line clean. But all the pipes is intact here. Plastic pipe can settle to a great extent without breaking, so there's no issues as far as broken pipe or anything like that goes. The sewer line is functioning at this time. If you have a large household coming in here and you know some gunk's getting down the line periodically that you know shouldn't go down there, I might suggest you rescope at about a year. That's going to give you a baseline for how the line is handling your living habits. And you can kind of adjust things accordingly. You know, if you are seeing some level of buildup, what I'd probably tell you is when you run that ejector, run a bathtub or whatever is down there on hot water. That way, when that ejects, you're blasting a bunch of nice hot water down the line that helps to melt the grease and bust it loose and move it on its way. That's even if it's necessary. The way this line looks right now, I don't think these folks have even had the need to do that. So